Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is where I share with you everything I know about health and fitness while working full-time as an ICU nurse. So if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button down below if you like that kind of stuff. And let's get into this highly anticipated video, at least for me. I've been wanting to do this video for a long time now, and I haven't mustered up the courage to do it yet. So here we go. I have my little notebook here. I wrote down everything that I want to tell you guys. I don't want to leave anything out. I have quite a story behind my hormone issues, behind my fertility journey, behind a lot of reasons why I have infertility issues. So I really want to share my story with you guys for the reasons of maybe it'll help one of you, but really I want to start documenting my journey when it comes to this topic. I really want to start sharing my story. I want to start getting kind of the word out there that these issues exist and they're real. I don't think they're talked about enough. I kind of joke around with my friends, you know, because my good friends know, you know, my journey with all of this and how long it's been and things like that. And I'm like, you know what, someday I'm going to write a book. Of course, I'm not there yet, but at least this is a start. One of my main goals in starting this YouTube channel was to start telling my story when it comes to hormone issues. I want to start documenting my journey and start telling you guys about what I've been through. And then hopefully, you know, down the road, I can look back on these videos and be like, yeah, that was worth it. That was so worth it. The other thing too is by the time I upload this video, it's going to be my 34th birthday. I know, time flies. And it also marks the 1-year anniversary that I've been working with my holistic naturopath doctor and trying to finally balance all these issues out and maybe even solve them. So I thought this was the perfect time around my birthday to make this video, and it'll be the first video of like many videos that I'll make. So I'll kind of make a series out of it. So let's get into it. Now, before I tell you everything currently going on with me right now, I have to give you the whole backstory. And you gotta bear with me, it's a long backstory, but if I don't tell you my history going back all the way to puberty, then a lot of this current stuff won't make sense. So I gotta go way back. So I already told you I'm 34 years old. All of my issues started when I hit puberty. This is a long story for me to tell you. I'm gonna try to condense it. I'm gonna try to make it short. Just bear with me, hang in there, it'll be worth it. It'll all make sense in the end. So growing up, I was a competitive gymnast and I was like a hardcore like athlete. I worked out all the time when I was little. I started to really get serious in gymnastics when I was like 7 or 8. And then from then all the way till I was about 14, 15, I believe, it was like practice every single day almost, you know, 3-4 hour training sessions. I mean, when I was in middle school, I remember sitting in the car like this, and my mom would be driving and she'd look over at my arms and she'd be just like feeling my forearm veins. I was like 10 years old. I had a 6-pack. Like it was just, I was pretty ripped as a kid. And so when my body was trying to hit puberty at like 14, 15, but I didn't have enough body fat to develop. So I still didn't have boobs. I didn't have underarm hair. I didn't have anything. And then I kept getting injured in gymnastics. So I quit the sport. And then all of a sudden I had a big growth spurt. This was around, I think, 15 years old. And my body was going through puberty. I kind of got boobs overnight. I was like, whoa, where'd those come from? You know, got hips a little bit. And I was like, because I guess my body didn't have enough body fat to go through puberty and to grow. So, but then all of the cystic acne came and I was a very awkward teenager. I didn't really have any friends. I went through a lot with other things going on in my life. That's a different story. But I wasn't very mature. I wasn't socially mature. I was just like, yeah, I really wasn't fitting in as a teenager. So I went to my pediatrician, my mom took me, and my acne was just terrible. And so it made my social issues worse, right? So she put me on the birth control pill, and it was Yasmin at the time, and that cleared it up. And what it did was it made me start my period. So I hadn't had a period yet. And I don't really know why that wasn't discussed, but I don't know. I think this was in the 90s. I don't know if they knew what they know now. But that birth control pill really cleared my acne, cleared my face. And then of course that led to me being more confident. And then I think I got on the homecoming court, yeah, my senior year. So it did a lot for me. So then I got into nursing school after high school, and I didn't have a boyfriend yet or anything. And I was like, you know, at this time I was 19, so I'd been on birth control for 3 years now. And I was like, let me just stop it. You know, what the heck? Like, I don't need it. Oh, so about 2 to 3 months into not having the pill in my system, oh my goodness, acne all came back. Horrible cystic acne. You know, my anxiety just skyrocketed. I'm already like sort of a nervous, anxious person to begin with, so I work on that on a daily basis. But this just, oh my goodness, I was just over the top anxious. I couldn't focus. I almost failed nursing school. By this time I was a junior in college, and I was a wreck. And at the same time, I wasn't menstruating either. So I gave that, I think I was off of it about a year. So I kind of was into my 20-year mark when I went to my doctor and I was like, I got to get back on this pill. You need to write me a prescription because I can't handle this. And I should have tackled some issues at that time, but I was so busy with nursing school. You know, I just needed my skin to clear up. Like, I was going to graduate. So, and around that time I was dating now my husband, and we were going to get married and blah, blah, blah. So get back on the pill. You know, of course I don't want babies yet. I'm only 20. So got married at 21 years old, and I also graduated nursing school at 21 years old, and I moved at 21 years old. I feel like I did a lot at a very young age. This was back in 2008, and I was in San Diego at the time. I'm born and raised in San Diego, in case you didn't know. And I met my husband at Point Loma Nazarene University. Good school, by the way. So we settled in San Diego for a couple years. Just to make the story a little bit shorter, all throughout my 20s, it was very stressful for me. And looking back, I don't really know how I got through it, but I did. So like I said, got married at 21 years old, and then, you know, got my BSN, got my nursing license, worked as a nurse for about a year, so med-surg oncology nurse, and then went into the ICU when I was almost 23 years old, became an ICU nurse back in 2010. And then my husband decided to go to law school. So I was like, oh, he's going to go to law school and business school, actually, and get a couple internships at the same time. He did it all, too. I was like, well, he can't work, so I'm going to pick up a second job because we want to buy a house in San Diego, blah, blah, blah. So I, at 23 years old, picked up a second nursing job. And at the time, I was already an ICU nurse. This was at the end of 2010, 2011. Picked up a second ICU nursing job and worked 5 12-hour shifts consistently for all the way through when he graduated law school and business school. So through when I was 26 years old, I did that. And all that time, we bought a house in San Diego, you know, was working the 2 nursing jobs. He was doing his 2 schools and his 2 internships, and we were renovating the house that we bought. And at one point, we had like no floor and no ceiling in the house that we were renovating. I don't know. I guess when you're in your young 20s, you're invincible. You can do whatever you want. Because like, yeah, we did it. And then, because San Diego is so competitive, my husband graduated law school. He couldn't get a law job right away. So we ended up moving to Palm Springs for his first job. And so we kept our San Diego house, put tenants in there, moved to Palm Springs, bought our second home. And I, of course, moved jobs, still ICU, but then I went into the night shift and I worked night shift. And I think that screwed my body up even more. So worked night shift, but only one job this time. And I did that for actually a total of 6 years, which I'll touch on, worked night shift. Worked there, and then was in Palm Springs for about a year and a half. Now, during that time when we were in Palm Springs, we bought our house. We did some renovations to it. My husband got his new job. I was diagnosed with something called mycosis fungoides. Don't look it up. Don't Google it. It's scary, the pictures. I don't have full-blown, like, stage 4 mycosis fungoides. I have the beginning stages, so it's not that serious. I just have to watch it. What it is this, it's a T-cell lymphoma of the skin. So it is a skin cancer. It is a type of lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But if you take care of yourself like I am, and I have a steroid cream I have to put on the red spots that come up on the trunk of me, and that's the main sign of mycosis fungoides, is they look like rash marks, like very subtle rash marks on like your butt, your trunk, things like that come up. And I thought I had eczema is what it looks like. And then, but it looks a little bit different. I went to my dermatologist in Palm Springs. They did a biopsy. She said, oh no, you have they call it MF, mycosis fungoides. And I had to fly to Stanford to get a second opinion to make sure I had it, blah, 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 blah. So that was very stressful. That was in 2014. I was diagnosed with that. And actually, if you guys want more on that kind of thing, I'll do a video on mycosis fungoides. It's very rare. Not a whole lot of people have it, especially young people don't normally have it. Normally appears in people over 50 or 60, so I was a rarity, of course. And then in 2015, my husband's job in Palm Springs wasn't really working out for him. So we ended up moving to his hometown in El Centro, which is about 2 hours south of Palm Springs. So it's, if you know anything about kind of Southern California, Arizona area, it's like 45-minute drive from Yuma. So it's way south, middle of the desert, hot, dry, flat. It's very like all farmland pretty much, out in the middle of nowhere. We ended up moving there, and we bought our third house there. We kept our Palm Springs house, put tenants in there, did a little bit of renovations on this El Centro house. And then around that time, about beginning of 2016, I noticed a mole on my ankle, my left, like outside of my ankle. So I went to the dermatologist, they biopsied it, and sure enough, it was full-blown melanoma. So I went in for what's called a Mohs surgery procedure, and we'll see. I'll think about it. I might put a picture right here of, maybe not the whole thing, but kind of like a picture of where it was on my ankle. And Mohs surgery is a major surgery where they have to take a bunch of skin around the melanoma and under the melanoma. So they take out like a big chunk of skin. So I had that done, and by that time I was really pretty stressed out in my life. I didn't like where I was living in El Centro. The weather was really terrible for my mycosis fungoides that I just told you about. And then I have very fair skin. And then this melanoma, and El Centro is really good for people who are from there because their family's there, they're used to the weather, but it's hot, dry all the time. And then with the farming industry all around our house, like we got the crop dusters coming in and spraying everything, and you know, the air quality is not the greatest, and you really can't drink the tap water. And so the environment for me was toxic, and I just was feeling miserable. And on top of that, I was on night shift, and I still had my job in Palm Springs, so I was commuting 2 hours and living in our little casita in our Palm Springs house, and then working night shift, and then driving back to El Centro. So this melanoma kind of like topped it all off, where I had enough. I needed to move out of that area. I needed to start over. I needed to get healthy again. This whole time I was eating healthy and working out, but that's only a small part of being healthy. The other part is your mentality, your emotional state of being, and also like the environment that you're living in is huge it plays a huge role on your hormones and mentation and your spiritual well-being. So after the surgery, my husband and I decided to take a 3-week trip up to the Pacific Northwest, and we went to a bunch of states in the Pacific Northwest, and we settled on Washington. That's where we decided we wanted to move to. We love Western Washington. We love the South Sound area. So we ventured back to Southern California from our vacation, and we made plans. So all of 2016, we were making plans to move, and then September of 2017, we moved up here. Now, during the whole melanoma time period, and then also during our trip up here, for the first time, I was off the pill. I decided to go off the pill again. I was 29 years old. You know, last time I was off the pill, I was 20 years old. So I was like, I'm 9 years older. Like, maybe my body will be better off the pill this time. Like, maybe I've matured, blah, blah, blah. So 2016, it ended 2016-ish, I went off the pill. Oh no, same thing all over again. About 3 months into being off the pill, all the cystic acne came back, my anxiety levels skyrocketed, I didn't have periods. I was like, are you kidding me? All over again. So I tried to give my body about a year off the pill, but it was just too much for me to handle. And at the time, I knew I was moving up here. So I went back to my doctor again. I said, I need to get on the birth control pill again. And they put me on Accutane. And I forgot to mention, I was on Accutane back when I was off the birth control pill the first time too. So round 2, Accutane, on the pill again. And I knew I was moving up here, so I didn't want to like try to figure out what my problems were down there, and because I knew I would change doctors anyways. So got all that situated, moved up here September of 2017. And it always takes you a while, or at least takes us a while to get settled, where we're gonna live. We bought a house, like, okay, which doctors do I go to? Do they even have any fertility clinics around? Blah, blah, blah. I'm asking around. I don't know anybody up here. We don't have any family up here. It's just us. So once I got my jobs, got settled, made some friends, asked around, I started making appointments with a group called Seattle Reproductive Medicine, and they're very well known in this area for fertility treatments. So my husband and I booked our first appointment there. We went there back in 2018, so about a year after we moved up here, and met with the fertility doctor, sat down with her at the table and told her all of my issues. And by this point, I'm like deathly afraid to get off the pill. I'm like, I need a plan before I get off this pill. I need to make sure that like I'm moving forward, because I am like, in my mind, like the birth control pill equals water. Like I need it to survive, which is terrible. So told her all my issues. And so I went in for several appointments just for like blood work. They couldn't test a whole lot of my hormones because I was still on the pill, but did a whole bunch of like baseline lab work. They could test like how many eggs I have. I did a couple pelvic uterine ultrasounds. So my baseline labs, and then also they tested my thyroid. So my baseline labs were all good. I have enough eggs, like my uterus and pelvic area all looks fine. So structurally I'm good to go. Then I think it was about the 3rd appointment, my doctor sat down with us and she said, well, it's looking like your only chance of getting pregnant is IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. If you don't know what that is, it's pretty invasive, super expensive treatment on trying to get pregnant. So we said, okay, which we knew that would be the verdict, but at the time we didn't know how expensive it was. So after she told us that, we met with a financial person, and it was just, my heart dropped when she told us that it looks like your insurance doesn't cover anything, it falls under the fertility umbrella. Neither one of our insurances covered anything. And they have, if you know anything about this kind of stuff, they have package deals on your treatment. So like my package would be, I would want 2 cycles of IVF, because normally the first cycle doesn't really work very well from what I'm hearing. So normally you need at least 2 cycles for it to be successful. So 2 cycles of IVF is about $50,000, 50. And I don't have that kind of money laying around, and they want pretty much the full payment up front before you start your treatments, because most of the money goes to the meds you have to inject in yourself to get ovulation going, and then to stop ovulation, and then to retrieve your egg. And if you want to know the process of IVF, I can do a separate video on that, because I have been well educated by this point. So I left that appointment feeling just horrible, very down, very defeated, because by this point, it was end of 2018, I was 31, almost 32 years old. I was like ready to do it. And I was like, I don't have $50,000. Who has $50,000 just laying around? I was asking the financial lady, like, who pays for this kind of stuff? She said, well, people can refinance their houses. Some people just borrow money from their family. Some people just have it. Some people's insurance actually does cover it. Like if I worked for Amazon or Google or one of the high-tech companies, a lot of times they'll pay for it, or they'll pay partially. So I'm like, well, that's not me. Okay. So I was like, all right, let me just regroup. We'll process all this. Couple months later, we ended up buying a fourplex, and our plan was to fully renovate all of it and then to kind of cash out, refinance it, take that money and use it for IVF. What do you know? COVID hit. So we partially have renovated it, and then COVID hit, and then we had to stop on that. And so we are just sort of like playing it safe because half our tenants just don't really know if they can pay right now. So we kind of like are trying to save as much money as we can just in case our tenants can't pay during this time. So at least we've renovated half of it. And so we're getting we're making some money, but not enough to refinance it and go for the IVF. I think it's a blessing in disguise because last summer, so last June of 2019, I reconnected with an old college friend, and I was telling her about my issues, and she recommended I go to a holistic naturopath that she's been going to for her thyroid issues, who also specializes in women's health, hormones, hormone balancing issues, fertility. So I was like, oh, who is this naturopath doctor? And she referred me to Seattle Integrative Medicine, and I now see a holistic naturopath named Dr. McCarty, and she has been a lifesaver. I'm telling you, I didn't really even know this option existed for me. I was just going to doctors and being like, here's my issues, and then they would just kind of blow me off or be like, give your body some time, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, it's not working. So I made an appointment with her, and so now it's been July of 2019. I started going to her, and she sat down with me, and for, I think it was an hour and a half. It was a long time, and no doctor has ever spent that much time with me. Like, hearing my whole story, she wanted to know everything, like from the time I was in puberty all the way till now, like what I've gone through, my stressors, where I've moved, where I've lived. She wanted to know everything, like my job, all the stress that I've been through with that, and what does my husband do, and okay, you went to Seattle Reproductive Medicine for fertility. Okay, what did they do for you? What did they say? All, like, everything. What's your current diet? Like, how much do you exercise? Like, what's your mental health? Like, everything. And I guess that's why they call them like holistic doctors. It was very refreshing, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, this is what I've been looking for this whole time. And last year I was 33, and I was like, I should have started this a long time ago, but now that you know my backstory, it was hard for me to start that anyways. But so she came up with a plan for me to stop the birth control pill, and I'm like, this makes me really nervous, everything I've been through with getting off of it. She said, I know, but we have a plan. And I was like, okay. So I stopped the birth control pill end of July of 2019. I went on the Whole30 diet. I'll put kind of like a little icon. I'm sure you guys have heard of this diet by now. But it's basically like a whole foods elimination diet where you cut out everything processed, you cut out sugar, you cut out dairy, you cut out grains, you kind of like cut out everything, and you see how your body reacts for about a month, and then you kind of slowly introduce different things back into your diet. Did that for a couple months actually. Got off dairy, got off gluten, and then she tested me for allergies / like sensitivities to food, which that came back, and I'm not really sensitive to anything but this is funny, whey protein, which is like I was eating a lot of whey protein last year, just with the protein bars and protein shakes I would drink after my workouts. Everything else, it looks like my body's not really that sensitive to, but it was nice to know that. And then she ordered a whole blood work panel of women's hormones, also a thyroid panel, and also like cortisol stress hormones. So she took a lot of blood from me. I got all that ordered 1 month into being off the birth control pill. And she wanted to see what my natural hormones were doing and what my stress hormones were doing. And so then I went back to her about a month and a half later, got those results back, and it was very surprising what she told me, because this whole time I was thinking I had PCOS just because I feel like I had all the symptoms, or a lot of the symptoms of PCOS. I do not have PCOS because my testosterone hormones are actually low. So my DHEA is low, and my progesterone is critically low, those two. which makes sense because you need progesterone to ovulate and then to have like menstrual periods. So yeah, that was super, super low. And also makes sense because the birth control really like inhibits all that from happening naturally in your body. So my body doesn't know how to produce those hormones by itself because the pill always just did it. So during that second appointment, knowing all that information on my blood work and on my sensitivity panel, she ordered supplements for me to start taking. So DHEA every day in the morning, and then another supplement called Simplex F, which is a type of supplement that is made from cow glands, I believe, cow adrenal glands. And so when humans take it, it stimulates the adrenal glands to make hormones, because my adrenal glands are underproducing in these hormones, which then creates all these other issues. So take that in the morning. It's just 2 pills. And then at night, she put me on vitamin D3, 2,000 units, and then like high powered omega-3 fish oil at night. So because those 2 are anti-inflammatory supplements for the body. So did that for about 3 months. So 3 months later, I started to experience a little bit of acne, a little bit of mood changes. I was like, I don't know about this. So met with her again, and she said, okay, let's redraw all of your hormones again. Everything that we just did, we'll redraw again. Just, we don't need to do the thyroid panel though again. And so things were looking better. So my DHEA was normal by that time, and but my progesterone was still critically low. It was about the same number, maybe a tiny bit better. So what she ended up doing was she prescribed to me like an herbal tincture or like an herbal liquid that she makes to help assist my body in a normal cycle. So it kind of looks like, this isn't the one, but it looks like this. So I take 1 teaspoon of this every morning. And then on top of that, do something called seed cycling. So you've heard me talk about this in my other previous videos, but what seed cycling is the first 2 weeks of your cycle. So the first 14 days of your cycle, you want to take 1 to 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds and 1 to 2 tablespoons of flax seeds. And what those seeds do is it helps stimulate the body to produce estrogen, because your estrogen is higher the first 2 weeks of your cycle. Then the last 2 weeks of your cycle, you want to take 1 to 2 tablespoons of sunflower seeds and 1 to 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds. And what that does is it helps stimulate your body to produce progesterone, because progesterone is highest in the last 2 weeks of your cycle. So I started doing that and taking the herbal tincture on top of the other supplements, and then still being gluten-free and dairy-free, because even though it looks like my body's not that sensitive to gluten or dairy, according to the panel that she drew, it can still be inflammatory to the body, especially dairy. So I stayed off that. And then, so that was about November. And then a few months later, end of March, lo and behold, I got my first period ever. So it was a period party, let me tell you. I took a picture of the card that my husband bought for me and cupcakes that he bought for me when he found out that I had my period. I felt like a teenager again, but we were all so thrilled. Like I called my mom and I was like, guess what? I got my first period. And she started crying, and all my sisters were like all excited for me. And I was like, dang, it's just a period. But in my situation, now that you know the story up till now, it was a huge deal that I got a period. And it was not that, it wasn't very heavy. It lasted about 3 days, and it was some cramping, but it was a period. So I was stoked. I was so excited. I was like, yeah, okay, all this work, okay, I'm getting somewhere finally. So then I had another appointment with her around that time. By this time, COVID had started, so we did a Zoom meeting or phone call, and she was very excited for me too. She's like, okay, so since you got your first period, let's kind of change up the herbal liquid a little bit. So that's why I held up this one, because I didn't have my old one, but I have 2 of them now. So back beginning of April now, she put me on 2 different herbal liquids. The first one is an estrogen formula, And kind of like with the seed cycling, I want to take the estrogen formula, which is 1 teaspoon of this herbal liquid every morning for the first 2 weeks of my cycle. And then the last 2 weeks of my cycle, take the progesterone formula. 1 teaspoon of this too every morning. And then I keep taking all the other supplements, except by this time my acne was flaring up. So she's like, why don't you back off the DHEA, because that could flare up your acne a little bit more. So I started just taking that one every other day. And she's like, okay, well, keep me posted. Let's regroup in another couple months. Another few months went by. End of May, I got my second period. So it was another period party. We're all so excited. I was like, yes, okay, this might be real. Like, I might be actually getting somewhere. But then by this point, like, I just started getting that horrible cystic acne, and you see it in my other YouTube videos. If I don't want to cover it up, I don't. I'm just, I want to be real on camera. I'm, if it's a day where it's like, I need to let my skin breathe. Sorry, it's kind of my reality. So, I want to be as real, with you guys as possible. So by that time, my acne was flaring up again, and so I made an appointment with her over the phone, and she put me on zinc. Apparently zinc really helps with the skin, like if you have acne issues, clearing up the skin. Zinc and a supplement called berberine, and that one kind of helps. It's sort of like a natural antibiotic for the skin and helps prevent accumulation of bacteria on the skin. So I started taking those supplements every day in the morning, and that helped a lot. I just had I guess this would be my 4th or 5th appointment by now. A couple weeks ago, I had an appointment with her over the phone. I still can't go into her office yet because of the whole pandemic, but I talked with her over the phone, and a few weeks ago now, my skin really was flaring up even more, and I was getting frustrated, and so I had those 2 periods, but still no more after that. But my skin was really bothering me. So, but everything else was okay. Like my anxiety was okay. I felt good. I feel good. So she's like, you know what? How much caffeine are you drinking? How much coffee? And I was like, well, I'm an open heart recovery ICU nurse who works long shifts, who does a bunch of other things in her personal life. I drink a lot of coffee. That's like what I was struggling with, was to get off coffee. And like I did for a little bit and then went back on it. And I love coffee, and it really helps like with my energy levels. So she said, you know what? I would try to get off of it if I were you. Apparently she tells me that some women don't process the actual coffee very well through their livers. And because of that, the liver is the main organ responsible for hormone balancing. And so if your liver isn't processing coffee very well, then it throws off all your other hormones too and makes it worse. So she said, I recommend 2 cups of black tea for 1 cup of coffee. And I was like, oh, I knew this day would come. So I was like, all right, let me just dive right in. So quit cold turkey coffee and went to black tea, and I am making it work. Like the black tea is growing on me. So, and I think it is helping my skin a little bit. Now I've been off coffee for 3 or 4 weeks now. I feel the same, but I think my skin is getting a little bit better. So we'll see how that goes. I can still have caffeine, but I just can't have the actual coffee. She also put me on vitamin C in the morning, and then also vitamin E that I put on the skin that also helps with acne scarring and acne also. Before COVID hit, my plan by now was to start IVF this October. But because of COVID, because of our finances, I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. I originally said I would give my naturopath doctor about a year to treat me and figure things out, and hopefully my body would respond. But if my body doesn't respond after giving it a year with her, I was gonna just go to Seattle Reproductive Medicine and start the IVF treatments. But because of everything, and also I think I am making progress with her, I want to keep going with it right now until kind of the pandemic blows over, our finances get a little bit more secure. And I know I'm 34 years old. I do have a little bit of time. I wanted to start this whole IVF thing before I was 35 years old. We'll kind of see what happens. I'm just going to take it like month by month and see where it goes. It really is hard to plan anything right now. Okay, so I think that's it. That's my whole hormone fertility journey in a nutshell. I hope that you enjoyed watching this. I'm sorry if it was a little bit boring, if some of you guys like aren't interested in this topic, but this topic is, this is a main struggle that I've been struggling with for many, many years. And the topic is near and dear to my heart. So maybe someday I will write a book, but you know, so currently I'm just gonna keep taking all these supplements that I told you about and just stay gluten-free, dairy-free, try to keep my stress down, try to eat as little processed foods as possible, try to really lead that holistic lifestyle that people preach about, but I didn't realize how significant that is until I started my own journey and how much that affects your hormones and everything else basically in your health. So I hope that this helped some of you guys if you're going through your own struggles, or if you know anybody going through struggles. I'm an open book, so leave comments down below. Ask me questions about what I've gone through. If you have any inquiries about things that I've mentioned, or if you have any burning questions that you want to ask me, please ask me. I'm super, super willing to share anything when it comes to this topic. I feel like I've been through it all. So we'll just, you'll be on this journey with me now. So I'm super excited. I will keep you posted every month as if there's like any updates going on with me in terms of this. Yeah. So I think that's it for now. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below, the little bell notification icon at the corner of your YouTube so you don't miss any future videos with me. And also hit the thumbs up button because it really helps support my channel. And thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for interacting with me and giving me the time of day. And I will see you next time, and always remember to be kind to yourself.